Max Verstappen finished a very close second at the Austrian Grand Prix with Kimi Antonelli on his heels. George Russell won his second race this season, but I think he got lucky a few times. On Saturday and Sunday, a few situations occurred that could have seen Max Verstappen win his first race of the season. What happened to Verstappen that ruined his chance to win? Let's find out. I'm Wimbo. Here's 3 seconds to leave a like. Max Verstappen and his management have been dropping subtle hints about a possible interest in leaving Red Bull if the upgrade package brought to Austria didn't work. For a while, the attention was mostly on Mercedes. But before this weekend, news came out that Max's management also had a chat with McLaren CEO Zak Brown. Raymond Vermeulen told Erik van Haren from The Telegraph that Verstappen wants to stay at Red Bull, but he's not built to race in the midfield. So the pressure was on this weekend to show how much the RB22 had improved after a pretty much complete overhaul of the car. The weight issue it had was solved, or almost solved, so we had good hopes. During the free practice sessions, not everything looked as well as we hoped. The Mercedes cars topped all sessions, but then we got to qualifying. We all know Max Verstappen can always do a little bit more on the Saturday. He only had 3 sets of soft tyres, so in Q2 they sent him out on used softs and kept him in the garage for the rest of the session. He had a margin of 4/10 from the fastest cars, and usually that would be enough, as the rest of the Q2 drivers normally wouldn't come that close. Well, it was a nail biter, and Red Bull and Verstappen were lucky that Pierre Gasly didn't beat Max's time. So Max Verstappen proceeded to Q3 in P10. He did it with 2 sets of softs, so that looked promising, as he did seem to have pace. In Q3 he set a provisional pole time, but he knew that wouldn't be enough. The Ferraris and the Mercedes cars were very quick as well. In Max's final attempt, he set a few purple sectors, and it looked like he could go for a front row or perhaps a P3. Just before the penultimate turn, he spun off into the gravel and sideways into the wall. Straight away he started talking to GP, his engineer, about something weird happening with his wing. A lot of different opinions are floating around on social media about Verstappen simply pushing too hard or a technical issue. As it turns out, the way I understood it is that Max's wing didn't close in 2/10 of a second, but a delay caused to close it in half a second. That delay made the car lose control and spin off. A great opportunity to start right at the front was killed by a technical gremlin. Now, I don't want to be too harsh about it, as certain teams have huge issues every race, but it was a Red Bull mistake. Verstappen had to start from P5 instead of the minimum P3 he was going for. It would have made a huge difference in the race. What was also frustrating was that the FIA took 15 seconds to call a double yellow, and Russell lifted a bit and then proceeded to set the fastest time, also helped by the fact that Antonelli broke off his lap, thinking it was a double yellow, as it should have been. The grid was set after this. Let's get to the race, shall we? Red Bull Racing is known to have the best strategy team on the grid. Hannah Smits is getting herself a legendary status with the calls she makes from time to time. Well, in this race, we have some questions. From our armchairs, it looked like the strategy could have been better. Verstappen, starting from P5, had a good start and fought Lewis Hamilton at the start of the race until he finally had enough and overtook him on the inside of turn 6. I think Lewis Hamilton wasn't prepared for that. It was awesome to see those two at it again, and it would be nice if it happened more. On the other hand, I like how casual things are between the two fan bases at the moment. Maybe it's best to keep it that way. Verstappen had great pace after his first pit stop and was getting closer and closer to George Russell, who was leading the race. Verstappen came as close as 1.3 seconds if I'm correct, and I expected Red Bull to call him in and try the undercut, but they chose a different strategy. After Russell pitted, they kept going, and by the time they did pit Verstappen, he was 10 seconds behind Russell on 6 laps fresher tyres. The strategy team thought that with his tyre offset, Verstappen could get Russell before the finish. The idea was thrilling, as I love those types of races where the anticipation is half the fun already. but we also need that payoff. Unfortunately, the gap didn't come down quick enough. I was hoping to see 8 tenths a lap coming off and Russell getting nervous and sloppy, but credit where credit is due, Russell didn't mess up. He was lucky the FIA didn't use double yellow straight away after Max's crash during qualifying, and he was lucky Antonelli made such a mess of things at the start of the race, but Russell did what he had to do and won. So they finished with Russell as a winner, Verstappen P2 and Antonelli, who pitted even later than Max, in P3. Verstappen said after the race that in hindsight it maybe would have been better if they had tried the undercut, but they were going to look at it in the debrief. I know Verstappen likes the proactive, aggressive approach, but maybe it wasn't possible with Antonelli so close. From my sofa I say Red Bull messed up big time. But no. Verstappen also said there were issues with his rear and with his braking. So if that hadn't happened, the strategy would have worked. All in all, it's a pity those two situations weren't done better. We could have been celebrating his first 2026 win. Overall, it looks like Max Verstappen is quite pleased with the upgrades. He did add something less positive. We still have too many issues, from starts to procedural issues in the background you guys don't know about. But I do. It's not a big criticism or whatever, I think everyone is aware. This is referring to what I said earlier about the little issues that slowed Verstappen down in the last stint. He had more to say to Viaplay. I'm reasonably happy. I had brake issues throughout the first half of the race and then issues with the rear in the second half. The rear wasn't behaving properly. It was bouncing. I couldn't take the curbs well. I had no traction and the tires were gone. Okay, I think he's making it a lot worse here. He closed the gap to Russell down from over 10 seconds to a second. But we know Verstappen is never happy. He keeps them on their toes. Them being Red Bull. Also about strategy, maybe we should have tried a more aggressive strategy to undercut Russell, but that's easy to say afterwards. Other than that, the update worked well, especially in the race. I'm happy with that. Max Verstappen is happy. And I think, despite the new McLaren talks, he's going to commit to Red Bull longer. Maybe it's all a ploy to wring the best possible salary and freedoms out of his new contract with the Austrian team. On the topic of competitiveness, things seem to be going in the right direction. Like many other seasons, Red Bull's development seems to be on point, which is hopeful for the rest of the season. I do hope they hit the ground running in the 2027 season, instead of being on the back foot each time. Maybe they can stop development early this season to focus on the next. It seems to be very hard for them to do both, which is understandable. If Red Bull wants Max Verstappen beyond 2028, they need to stay very focused. And maybe even a little bit better than they were in Spielberg. A P2 podium is a nice position, but Max Verstappen is built to win. If Red Bull can provide a car that can fight for a championship, I'm sure they'll have Max forever. What do you think? Subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I have gained a lot of subscribers in the last month, which is fantastic. If some of you would like to support a little more, there is an option to become a member. Take care now. Doei doei.